right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Welcome.
Sure.
I am Cheryl Uran, Chief Human Resources Officer for Absorb Software. Thank you for joining us for today's Ally Chat on creating a culture of respect and for gender and sexual diversity. I am honored to be here today with Matteo Yumas from the Center for Sexuality based in Alberta, Canada, and one of our Absorb customers. Matteo is an experienced educator and is a training facilitator for the center. Matteo works with groups and organizations on behalf of the center to educate and enable people to create more inclusive environments. During today's Ally Chat, Matteo will walk us through an abbreviated version of his training and help us all create more inclusive work environments and safer spaces for ourselves and for our gender and sexually diverse colleagues. We'll take questions as time allows, so please place your questions in the Q&A box as we go through today's program. And with that, I will turn it over to Matteo to tell us a little bit more about the center and take us through today's program. Matteo?
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to have you here, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, our training around creating culture of respect for gender and sexual diversity. Welcome to the training center at the Center for Sexuality. Quickly, I want to acknowledge that I am located on the territory Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, Canada. And I want to acknowledge the Indigenous land and acknowledge the Indigenous people of Canada. And we're grateful and thankful for the Treaty 7 people for taking such good care of this land. I recognize all treaty people with rights and responsibilities here in Canada. As Cheryl mentioned, I am an educator. I've been teaching for 15 years. I've taught in 8 different countries. Canada is number 8. And I have another background in linguistic translation and interpretation and in master education, in adult education. I am passionate about languages. I love languages so much. I speak 8 of them, and I would like to learn more, but my language clock is ticking. So I would like you today to keep an open mind and show curiosity when you are observing the session, so you take the best out of it. A little bit about the Center for Sexuality. We will be recording today. A Center for Sexuality is a nonprofit organization located here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and we've been in the sector for 50 years. We teach, we train, we advocate to support healthy bodies, healthy relationships, and healthy communities. And our vision is sexual well-being for all. I'm dropping the link in the chat for our website. Please visit our website and see what you can what services we provide that could be a fit for you or your organization, so we can provide you with some education and learning. Today on our agenda, we are going to discuss sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation, and hopefully you will be able to report an increased knowledge around these terms and definitions, and you will report an increased understanding of the impact of homophobia and transphobia, and you will be able to identify tools and practices to create safer and more inclusive environment for LGBTQ+ individuals. The term that we use in Canada is 2S LGBTQ+. 2S LGBTQ+ stands for Two-Spirit, is an Indigenous or Native people or the First Nation people here on the land of Canada. Two-Spirit is an identity related to First Nation people in Canada. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and the plus is for other gender and sexual identities that are out there. We use the plus as an umbrella. Today is the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Transphobia, acknowledged by the United Nations around the world. And today we want to spread the awareness and have a reflection and understand the experiences of people who are of diverse gender and sexual identities, and provide some tools to navigate and become good allies for our coworkers and maybe people in our communities as well. So today what we're going to be talking about could be applicable into your professional life. At the same time, you can apply it into your personal life if that's a fit for you. I'm going ahead and we're going to jump into our material. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for paying attention. And you can take notes, and you can engage in the chat if you have any questions, concerns, comments. And we need just to keep them respectful and mindful when we are sharing and participating in this session. Now, Since we cannot be into groups, I want you here just to have some reflection with me. So when we're talking about experiences of divergent and sexual identities, I want you to think of the most important person to you in your life. Only one person. Think of that person. And if you want to write that person down on your phone or write their name on a sticky paper or on a post-it or a piece of paper, write down the name of the most important person to you. And also you could write down or think of the three most important things to you. Things could be your values, your beliefs, your pets, dogs, cats, or whatever. Could be your hobbies, could be your job, could be things that are part of your day-to-day life. And here I want you to think of, and we're going to be in the mood of, we're going to be reflecting. So I want you to set your imagination free and think of yourself at work, coming to work and talking about your weekend. What did you do on the weekend? And think of that you are not allowed or you are unable to mention anything that is written on your notes. So when you talk about your weekend, when you communicate and socialize with people in your life at work, think of how would it feel if you are unable to talk about the important people in your life, your children, your siblings, your parents, your partners, your husbands, your wives, your spouses. How would you feel if you come to work every day and you cannot talk about those important people in your life, or you cannot talk about those important things in your life? The conversations could be really dry and could be really superficial. You could be talking about the weather. You could be talking about cooking. You could be talking about watching TV, but you do not create relationships. You do not connect with other people because you're not mentioning the most important things in your life. So you met me about 8 minutes ago. And if I stand here and I tell you, hey, I'm Matteo, and on the weekend, I watched TV, I had dinner, and I went to bed. Do you think you get to know much about me as a person? Do you think you can connect with me? Do you think you can relate to me? And that's technically the experience of LGBTQ plus people in the workplaces. When people come to work or they are in our professional life, if they cannot be authentic and they cannot share important things about their life, it is a stressful experience, mentally and emotionally. If you think about it, when you go to your office, if you have children, you don't think twice before saying, oh, I took my kids to the park. We don't do this because we socialize, we evolve to share these important things about us. And if I tell you, please do not talk about your children at work, how would you feel? You will feel hurt because those are the most important things in your life. Same for people who are of the LGBTQ plus community. When in workplaces, they might not be able to talk about their partners. They might not be able to talk about people in their lives, their friends, the events they go to, their interests, their identities, their life. And when that's the experience for their entire life, that is a very stressful and mentally and emotionally. So we need to think of how can we communicate our inclusivity? How can we show it to people, especially people who are subjected to discrimination? We need to communicate that inclusivity. We need to talk about it. We need to assure our coworkers, the people in our lives, that we are inclusive, we are respectful, and we understand their experiences. We understand what's going on in their lives, and we are safe for them. If you think of two gay couples, they will not go to a hotel and go to the front desk and say, hi, good morning, do you take gay people here? That doesn't work, right? They would look for signages. They would look for messages to make sure this is a safe place. And that's also the responsibility of you to create those safer spaces and be a good ally at your workplace. So again, just that emotional reflection, think of you not being able to share important things about your life with the people that you work with on a daily basis. And in order to understand those experiences, we need to understand what these terms mean. What do we mean when we say gender diversity? What do we mean when we say sexual orientation? What do we mean when we say sex or gender identity? So I'm going to walk you now through these terms, and we're going to discuss what they mean, so you understand those experiences and understand that the human experience is not one way. We're going to define sex as a noun, not as a verb. So not the action of sex, not the activity of sex, but when sex is assigned for children. So I want you to follow this diagram or that graph on the screen, and we're going to start with sex. So when someone says, what is your sex, or what someone's sex is, when we say that, we're actually talking about our bodies. We're talking about our physiological characteristics. So sex is assigned at birth. It's something that is assigned on us based on our physiological characteristics, based on our genitalia, our reproductive and sexual anatomy or organs. When the babies are forming in the uterus, our chromosomes and hormones, they gather together and they form our genitalia. So when the baby is born, the doctor, the nurse, the midwife, whoever is there, they look at the baby, and if they see a penis or scrotum, they assign the baby as male. So we're going to put the baby here in this category, the male category. And if they see a vulva, they assign the baby as female, another category, right? Two distinct categories that we have where we assign babies to based on their genitalia, based on what we see. But I want to ask you a question. What happens to people in general, in a lot of societies, a lot of cultures, where they do not fit the categories that are there in society? When people are different, what happens to them often? You can share in the chat if you have an answer, but I will tell you the answer as well. So often when people do not fit into categories, or people are perceived or assumed that they are different, they are outcasted, they are discriminated against. They are labeled with words such as abnormal, not normal, weird, different, or sometimes we do not have words for them, right? Language does not, exactly, could be others pushed them into categories or outcast them 100%. Or sometimes they're just like forced to be into that category. It's like you have to conform, you have to submit and be into this category. And here we can reflect on a term, or what term do we use for humans who are naturally born with indistinct genitalia, different composition of hormones and chromosomes, and they do not fit into the categories of male and female? Yep, Jamie, good job. Intersex, 100%. So intersex is a term used for humans who are naturally born with indistinct genitalia, ambiguous genitalia, different genitalia, and they do not fit into the categories of male and female. And often society might not have a word for them. Some languages might not have words for them. Some languages might refer to them as hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite is a very derogatory and hurtful and harmful term to use for humans, because hermaphrodite is a term used for creatures that can reproduce within themselves. Humans cannot do that. No human on earth can reproduce or make babies without a partner. So that's why this term is very inappropriate, and it's very hurtful to describe another human with, because slugs, snails, earthworms, they can reproduce within themselves. Humans cannot. And we notice that in society, male and female, they have the space to be presented without stigma, without shame, without hiding, right? I can stand here and tell you, hello, I'm Matteo, I am male assigned at birth. I was like, yeah, sure, no big deal. But intersex people get subjected to invasive questions, rude questions. Often people ask, oh, what does their genitalia look like? Which is very inappropriate, because we do not accept anyone to come to us and ask us what your genitalia looks like, right? So we need to be mindful. So when we're talking about sex, we're talking about our bodies, we're talking about our physiological characteristics. So it's very important on our intake forms at our organization or companies to remove the word sex, unless if we are medical doctors and we want to work in that area. We should not ask people about their genitalia. We should not ask people, what sex is your sex? So that's when we talk about sex. Sex, biology, genitalia, chromosomes, hormones, reproductive and sexual organs. Now we're going to move into gender. Gender is often conflated with sex, is often understood as sex, but gender and sex are completely different. In some languages, some cultures, sex is gender and gender is sex. There is no other word. But we need to just differentiate the concept of them. So gender is socially constructed, is designed and formed by society, by cultures, by norms. And at the same time, it is innate, it's natural, it's connected to our brain, to our senses, to our feelings. So think of gender as a spectrum. Think of this as a spectrum, men and women, the end of that spectrum. When a baby is born as male, what are the social expectations from that male to be a man? The expectations often is to be tough, strong, thick voice, masculine, provider, doesn't fear fights, dress in black and blue, no emotions, you cannot cry, men do not cry. All these expectations in society are expected from someone who is born male. Same thing for someone who is born female. The expectations in society is that you have to be feminine, you have to be soft, you have to lower your voice, you have to love pink, you have to be a motherly, you have to have feelings of like being a mother, motherly feelings, etc., etc. So those are the expectations in society and roles and responsibilities for people who are born male and people who are born female. But if we think about it, all of us in this room, if we reflect on our relation personally, innately with that spectrum, we see that not every human can check or might check all these boxes or expectations, right? I am male assigned at birth, I identify as a man, but I do not check all these boxes. And I'm comfortable with that. And I'm happy with that because that's what is comfortable for me. That's what my identity is. Not every man is I'm so sorry for this. I think I got disconnected, right?
You are back now.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really sorry for this. Again, technical difficulties just became part of the norms. So, can you see my screen as well, Cheryl?
Yes. Yep.
So again, back to the concept of gender. Gender is those social expectations, responsibilities, roles that we have for men and women, how they should behave, how they should act, how they walk, how they talk, how they move, how they dress, how they speak. All of these things are expected from society. But as humans, we might connect to some of these. Some people might fall on this end of the spectrum. Some people might fall here. Some people in the middle. Some people completely outside of it. Some people might say, you know what? All these expectations of masculinity and all the expectations of femininity, they do not mean to me. I do not identify or connect with them. And some others do connect with them. And those people, we call them cisgender. So a person who's their innate sense of self, who they know they are, matches the expectations from the sex that was assigned at birth. So a male assigned at birth who connects with being tough and masculine and strong and loves trucks and black and blue and, being the provider and the dominant, that would be a cisgender person when they connect to those expectations. Not all of them, or maybe all of them. A trans person, trans in Latin means on the other end. Trans person is someone who's their innate sense of self, who they know they are, does not match the expectations from the sex that was assigned at birth. So someone who is born male or female and their innate sense of self, their identity might connect with the other end of that spectrum. So let's say a male assigned at birth connects more with femininity, with naturally, right? As a human, that's who they are. They are more feminine, they are more soft, they are more caring, motherly, loving, etc., etc. So that would make the person a transgender, someone who they know their own identity and they connect with it. All right. Now let's go to gender identity. Gender identity is technically the labels and the words that we use to describe our gender. So we have woman, girl, and man, boy. And those labels are what we use in societies, right? And sorry, am I still connected?
You are.
So sorry for this. It's freezing for me. All right. Another gender identity we have out there is non-binary. Non-binary is an umbrella term used for humans who their innate sense of self connects or matches or identifies with both expectations of men and women. They connect with this side, they connect with these expectations. Or they might not connect with who they are naturally as a humans. Again, we talked about biology earlier. Biology is our sex. That's it. Now we talk about gender. We talk about social expectations, responsibilities, and roles. So a non-binary person is someone who connects with both men and women or none at all. And there's many identities under non-binary, and it's fair to look at it and see, what could be, if someone communicated to you, you can ask them what does that mean to them. All right. Now, let's move on to gender expression. So gender expression is technically how we present and express our gender. So the way we dress, the way we speak, the way we talk, the way we, our makeup, our accessories, the way we move, and also our pronouns. What pronouns do we use? And okay. And also our understanding of what is feminine, what is masculine. Femininity and masculinity in the way people present themselves has changed throughout history in all cultures and in all societies. It shifts and changes all the time. It's not based on logic. So, for example, high heels were invented for men, not for women. High heels were invented for men in Persia or Iran nowadays. And men wore high heels for centuries. European men wore high heels for centuries. And then there was a time in society where high heels shifted and became a feminine product, not a masculine product. Makeup was used by men in China and Japan 6,000 years ago. Arab men wore eyeliner. European men wore makeup for centuries as well. And that also shifted and changed. And same for other things. So, for example, pink and blue. Pink was always a shade of red, was always associated with blood, armies, power, strength. And blue was associated with Virgin Mary, the veil, and sanity and purity. In North America, after World War II, that's when the colors shifted and red and pink became associated with femininity and blue was associated with masculinity. So the way people are presenting themselves nowadays is just technically a different way of that they present their own gender. And what's happening that we are alive and we are present in a time of another shift in our society. So if you think about it, not long ago, women were not allowed to wear pants, right? And I'm sure at the time people were complaining and people were saying negative comments and people were saying, oh, we can't tell men from women anymore. What's happening is the end of the world. But now no one would think about it. And that's what's going on. People are just expressing themselves, dressing the way they feel that feels right to them. When you woke up today and you went to work and you put on your clothes, that's what felt right to your own identity, whether it was feminine clothing, simple clothing, a tie, a suit, a dress, pants, whatever you expressed yourself with, that's your own feeling. So again, sex is our body, gender is social constructed, is the expectations in society, and gender expression is how we present ourselves when it comes to gender and what pronouns we use. Now let's talk about sexual orientation. Sexual orientation is technically the gender that you are attracted to sexually and romantically. Not everyone that we find sexy, we might fall in love with. And not everyone that we might have feelings for, we might be sexually attracted to. And in many times, both are happening at the same time. We are attracted to people both sexually and romantically. So some of the sexual orientation identities we have out there, straight. Straight is a man who's attracted to another woman and women who are attracted to men. So straight is often left out of the list because people assume it as this is the norm. It's like straight is not a sexual orientation, but it is a sexual orientation. It's who you are oriented to, who you are attracted to. Gay is a man who's attracted to a man, or could also be used by women who are attracted to other women, or could also be used as when we say the gay community, could be used as an umbrella term. Lesbian is a woman who's attracted to another woman. Bisexual, someone who's attracted to two or more genders, someone who's attracted to men, women, or non-binary, etc. Pansexual, pan in Latin means all. Pansexual, someone who's attracted to other people, regardless of their gender. So gender is not an element or a factor of that attraction. Gender, the person is what attracts them more than their gender. Asexual is a term used for humans who have little to no sexual attraction towards others. As simple as that. That attraction that many people have, they might not have it at all. And we can think of how our societies are constructed. How many asexual people do you think were back in the time were forced to get married and forced to perform sex and formed to do something that they do not have? That attraction just doesn't exist for them, or they have it a little bit. It's not throughout their entire life. And asexuality has nothing to do with body ability. It's not whether they can or cannot perform sex. It's just that attraction that many people have sexually. They just simply do not have it. Homosexual is another word for gay. And this word used to be medicalized. It used to be used as a diagnosis for mental illness in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, or the DSM. But it was removed in 1973 in Canada and United States. So be mindful with this word. If someone lived through that experience, we don't want to repeat it. But if someone says, hi, I am Bob, I am homosexual, we can mirror that language. We can reflect that language. It's like, oh, Bob is homosexual. If Bob says, hi, I am Bob, I am gay, we can reflect that language and say Bob is gay. Heterosexual is another word for straight. And aromantic is a word used to describe humans who have little to no romantic attraction towards others. So that romantic falling in love or romantic attraction, they might not have it. They might not have that feeling to fall in love or be in love with someone or be romantically attracted to someone. It doesn't mean that they do not love their families or people around them. It's just that romantic attraction I'm talking about, not just the sense of love. And if you have any questions you want me to clarify or you want me to repeat, please drop it in the chat. I would be happy to do so. So again, this all just to give you an idea that the human experience is not one way. The human experience is very diverse, it's very different. The way I feel is not the same way you feel. The way I like things is not the same way as you like things. And we need to understand that when we talk about gender diversity and gender and sexual diversity, is that humans come with different forms, different experiences, different interests, and we need to understand them. And sexual orientation is not something that people choose. So it's not a choice. So if you are a straight person, you can reflect on when did you decide or choose to be straight? Was it like April 25, 1996? I'm sitting on the balcony having a drink and I decided to be straight. No, that's not how it works. So humans are born naturally with their own attractions, with their own interests, with their own feelings and emotions. And that's why we need to understand and let go with the ideas that people choose. If you think of the experiences of gay people or transgender people in our societies, do you think someone would willingly choose to have those negative experiences or those discrimination or discriminatory experiences? No, people will not choose that because it's dangerous for so many people. Kim says aromantic persons may or may not be sexually attracted to others. Exactly. So everything is a spectrum. So some people might be attracted sexually, but not romantically, or some people might both not be romantically or sexually attracted to others and live their life normally and happily. It's just, you cannot miss something you don't have, right? So often people wonder, is like, what do you mean they're not attracted sexually? It's like, simply they do not have that feeling. Thank you so much, Kim, for mentioning that. Now, what we take out of all of this? We take out of all of this is that everything should be seen as on a spectrum. The human experience is diverse, is different. We cannot go around the entire universe and put them under one box and put them in one box. That doesn't work, right? You are different than your siblings. You are different than your parents, and so on, so on, so on. So everything is a spectrum. We should stop seeing things as distinct categories. Some humans might have their own understanding of what it means to them. What is non-binary, what is transgender, what is gay, what is asexual. So it's important to always respect people's ideas about themselves and reflect that knowledge. Language changes, and we're talking from a Western perspective here, and we're talking with English language. You can apply that information to your own language that you speak, to your own community, to your own culture, and see many cultures have different words, different terms for it. As I said, in Canada, Indigenous people or Native people or First Nation people, they use the term two spirits to describe their divergent and sexual identities. Now I want to talk about this. We all have values and beliefs. All of us as humans, we have values and beliefs, and those are part of who we are as humans. Our cultures, our religions, our values, our opinions, everything. The point here, I'm not asking you to change that or to let go of your own values and beliefs. What I'm asking you here is to reflect on their impact on other people. If I am someone who doesn't believe in any of this, I should understand what that behavior could do to other people. I could not believe in it. That's totally fine. But am I projecting that on other people's lives? Am I asking someone to live their life in the way that feels good to me? Right? That's what we're trying to understand here. And in a professional space, you are required to work with people with your professional responsibilities, not your own personal values and beliefs. As an educator, I am not here to give you my own opinions on things. I'm here to give you my professional responsibilities, which is education, right? And we talked about pronouns, and of course that differs in your culture. Some languages might not have gender pronouns. Some languages might have gender pronouns. So a pronoun is just a word that replaces your name in a sentence. You can say something like, Matteo is the facilitator of this workshop. He is amazing, he's great, he's fantastic, and we love Matteo, right? So you just use my pronouns instead of my name. But if you don't know my pronouns, if you don't know what my gender is, because my gender has nothing to do with the sex that was assigned at birth. We agree that sex and gender are different. So you can use my name, or you can ask me, hey, Matteo, how can I refer to you? What do you want me to use? Right? And especially we need to do that to create that safety for non-binary people and also for transgender folks, because they often experience discrimination, they often experience misgendering, and it's like they use names that they did not use anymore. So how do you know people's pronouns? Depends on your language. Of course, in English, we have she, her, hers, herself is a feminine pronoun. He, him, his, himself is a masculine pronoun. They, them, theirs, themselves is a plural pronoun. But they, them, theirs, themselves is often used by non-binary people. Non-binary people might communicate their gender, express their gender using they, them, to tell you, hey, can you please not put me in a box of a he or a she? That's not who I am. I don't want to conform. I do not connect to those expectations in society. I do not have to show masculinity just because I am male assigned at birth. And I do not have to show femininity because I am a female assigned at birth. Kim says, ask. If you would like to clarify that, Kim, I would appreciate it. And in English language, we do say, when we're speaking about someone who we do not know their gender, we speak in a gender neutral language way, and we say they. So sometimes in English, we say, ask what pronouns they prefer. Exactly. What is your pronoun, right? Ask people that. So sometimes in English, we say, someone left their phone on the table. They will come back later and take it. We don't know the person, we don't know their pronouns, but we are respecting gender identity and gender expression. So, gender neutral language. My friend, right? Communicating that and building it into your skills is really helpful. As sorry. let's see. Okay, as Kim mentioned, it's like, how do you know people's pronouns? Simply shares yours. Hello, I'm Mateo. My pronouns are he, him. I give the message now for people to feel safe to share their own pronouns with me, right? Ask theirs, but don't put too much pressure. Hi, how can I refer to you? What pronouns do you use? If someone says, I don't use pronouns, can't you tell? It's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to be inclusive. I'm sorry, what's your name? Use their name, refer to people using their names if they didn't share their pronouns with you, or if you're not comfortable using pronouns. Name tags, if I come to your office or to your organization and I see your name and I see your pronouns under your name, I would feel that I can also share my pronouns and share my own gender expression and identity with you. Lanyards, email signature, and business cards. And what do we do when we make a mistake? Because we are humans. We sit and cry. No, we do not. We simply apologize, we correct ourselves, and we move on. We don't make it a big deal. So think of, if your name is Dina and I read it as Diana, what am I going to do? I'm just going to simply just quickly correct myself, right? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, Diana, and move on, continue. But I cannot call Dina Diana every day. So I have to practice on my own. I have to build that skill and make that change because that's my responsibility. Any questions so far? I know it's a lot of information I'm throwing at you, and I'm not expecting you to memorize or remember all of this. I want you just to think and have a reflection that the human experience is different from one person to another, and there are different ways of being. Now, today is our International Day against homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. And I want to share with you the world map. And I want you to reflect on how dangerous it could be for individuals from the LGBTQ plus community. So look at this map here. And I want you to pay attention to the colors. So if you're looking at the color blue or any shade of blue, those countries protect same-sex relationships. So there are laws that protect and legalize same-sex relationships. So people who are in those countries are legally protected from discrimination, harassment, or harm based on their sexual orientation. If you look at the countries in the color beige and the shades of beige all the way to white, those countries do not have laws that protect or criminalize same-sex relationships. So those countries just do not have laws regarding homosexuality or same-sex relationships. So people are not protected, but also they are not criminalized. But if something happened to them, there is no protection. And when you look at the countries with the colors of red and all the shades of red, in those countries, same-sex relationships are criminalized by law. And the darker the red gets, the harsher that law is, which could reach to death penalty. So people who are in countries with the dark red, those people could be killed based on their identities, sexual orientation, same-sex relationships. So I want you to always reflect, if you are in one of those countries, to see how harmful it could be for a human to lose their lives just for being who they are, right? And if you're working with people from those countries, have some compassion and understand they come from a very traumatic experience. So if you are in a different country, in a safe country, but you work with people from those countries, understand that those people experienced really severe trauma when they are scared for their lives and they moved out of those countries. So just reflect on that and look at that map and remember it. And you might wonder, what could be your responsibility? What could be your role as an ally, as someone who wants to make a difference, wants to create safety for other people? First, you can start with yourself. Start with yourself to clarify your own values, beliefs, and be aware of their impact, as I mentioned earlier. Know what could happen from your own opinion or your own behavior towards people who are not straight or people who are not cisgender. So we're talking about gay, lesbian, non-binary, transgender, bisexual, pansexual. What could happen to those people just based on your own opinion? If your opinion has that negative impact, think twice about it. Continue educating yourself. Education is key. Education is power. And continue looking for what terms mean, what experiences people have, even if you are not part of the community. See what's going on in the world, how people are, how studies, research, what they are proving, what they are showing. And check in on your own assumptions. What you see, you can look at me and you can make millions of assumptions and ideas about me. Most of them might not be true because you do not know who I am. You do not know my identity. You don't know anything about me as a person. Until you know, we should not be acting on our assumptions. As humans, we have assumptions. We make ideas. We think about other people and we assume things. So what we want to do is not to act on those assumptions and not let those assumptions impact how we work with people, how we treat our coworkers, how we contribute to a negative experience for some folks. And take accountability for your own actions. Show humility. If you made a mistake, apologize, similar to the pronouns mistake. Apologize, correct yourself, and that's how you build trust, right? If you made something, if I hurt you and I was defensive, you will not trust me because I'm being defensive. But if I hurt you and I apologize, you might trust me because I owned up for my mistake. And be an active bystander. Bystander is someone who steps in and support someone who, when discrimination and harassment happens. So if you witness discrimination or harm or harassment, yes, Christopher, I'm explaining that. So an active bystander is someone who would be present in the time of discrimination or harassment. And they step in, of course, if they feel safe to step in. And always put your attention on the person subjected to the harm, the vulnerable person in that situation. Ignore the aggressor. Often as humans, we tend to go, stop, don't do this, don't say that. No, we're not putting our attention on that person. We're putting our attention on the person who is vulnerable in that situation, the person who needs that attention. I remember once I was in Brussels with my friend, and we were sitting in the buses, you know, the seat-facing buses. And I'm sitting with my friend, and there was a person harassing my friend with his knee. And I am a very tall person. I'm 190 centimeters or 63 foot. And I stood up and I wanted to scare him, right? Like, I'm going to step in, I'm going to do something. And then my friend turned to me, I was like, Matt, can you please sit down? I'll deal with this. I was like, oh, interesting. I should have asked her. I should give that power to her, not take that power and act on it. I was like, I should have asked her, hey, I witnessed what's going on. I saw what's happening. I'm sorry that happened. What can I do to support you? So again, being an active bystander, because we don't want to fight with people. We're not fighting with people. We're just supporting people who need that support. So that's what's an active bystander, someone who is there in the time of harm or discrimination. And there are myths around, and there are misconceptions and assumptions we need to avoid. We need to be aware of their impact, and we need to know if they are actually true or not. So the myth out there around people from the LGBTQ plus community are that many people will grow through an LGBTQ plus diverse phase, that they will grow out of it. That's not true. People who are LGBTQ plus, that's who they are from birth to death. And it's not a phase, right? It's not something that, oh, I tried it now. It could be if someone is curious to try and they tried a same-sex relationship for one time and then they thought like, yeah, that's not for me. That's normal. But someone who is LGBTQ plus, someone who is gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, etc., it's who they are, and that's their entire life. And if we think that they're growing out of it, they might be under social pressure to not disclose their identity and not conforming to their own identities. Gender and sexual orientation diversity is a result of a traumatic childhood experience or abuse, which also a myth. Is not true. It's not backed with research or science or anything. Because if everyone who experienced trauma or abuse in their childhood turned gay or lesbian or transgender, then how many people in the world would be that? We need to think of this. Because many people, many children experience trauma, many children experience abuse, and they turn to be straight. So that has nothing to do with it. Children are too young to know their own gender. And that's actually not true, because gender identity is actually developed between the age 2 and 5. So children, because we provide our children with everything gendered, how would you know that you are in the girls section at the toy store? Because it's pink. We tell them this is for you. This is what your gender is. And children can connect and identify with things. Children who play with trucks instead of Barbies, or children who play with Barbies instead of trucks or soccer or football. Transitioning follows a predetermined set of order or steps. So for transgender folks, they have to follow through steps to be transgender. That's not true at all. People can be transgender by just sharing their identities. It's like, hey, I do not conform to those expectations from society. I am on the other spectrum of that gender spectrum. Or people can legally change their names or pronouns. Or people who would like to go and have affirming surgeries or gender affirming surgeries. So not everyone who is trans would go through surgeries. Not everyone who's trans would go under hormone blockers or hormone replacement therapy. So transitioning has so many different forms, and each individual is what feels right to them. They can identify as trans. Parenting impacts gender and sexual orientation, which is a big myth, because again, parenting has nothing to do with it, because we have a lot of failed parenting, right? And people do not turn gay or lesbian or transgender. So the way people parent their kids has nothing to do with their own identities. Now, what can you do when you're working with others? How can you create that inclusivity? How can you communicate that you are an inclusive and a safe and open-minded person? Asking people for their pronouns and chosen names. Let's move away from preferred names or preferred pronouns, because it's not a preference. It's not like, Mateo, do you prefer chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream? No, it's chosen, it's affirmed, it's true. So, hi, I'm sorry, what's your chosen name? How can I refer to you? What's your pronouns? Right? Regardless of what the ID card says. How do you want me to call you? Right? Using inclusive gender neutral language. And instead of saying to a man, how old is your wife? You can ask, how old is your partner? Right? Do you have a partner? Do you have a spouse instead of husband and wives? We cannot assume that men should have wives or women should have husbands. Your children instead of your brothers, your sons or daughters, your siblings instead of your brother and sisters, your parents instead of your father and mother, because sometimes two men could be with children, or children could have two moms or two dads. We need to build trust and rapport. So when we're building trust with people is when we're showing humility, when we're communicating, telling them, hey, you are safe with me. I understand. I went to this workshop and this Mateo is amazing. And he taught me about all of this. And you could be safe with me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to discriminate against you. Build comfort and skill in talking about sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. Sex is our body. We should not ask people about their sex. That's our genitalia. I don't want someone to come to me in the street and ask me what's in your pants. That should not happen. Simple as that. Gender identity is how people identify, how people connect with those expectations in their society when it comes to the sex that was assigned at birth. Gender expression, how people present themselves, how they dress, how they speak. I am European Mediterranean. I use my hands all the time when I'm speaking. In North America, that's flamboyant. But for me, it's how we speak, right? We use our hands. So there is not a set way of how people express themselves, how they speak, how they sit, how they dress, what makeup, accessories they wear, and what pronouns they use. Sexual orientation is who you are attracted to, who you form sexual or romantic relationships with. Connect people. Be resourceful. See where you can connect people to get support, and make sure you are connecting them to safe referrals. And as an organization, if you are not in a leadership position, you can always advocate to your leaders, to your managers, to your CEOs that they should make change in the organization to include everyone. Think of inclusivity as a box. This is the box that we exist in at work. By being inclusive, we're just making this box a little bit bigger. That's all what we're doing. We're just making more room for people to exist in a safe and a positive way. So Leadership support and supports and role models inclusion. Leadership and managers, they should be part of organizational change. Physical spaces, washrooms should be gender neutral. Anyone who needs a bathroom or a toilet in Canada, and just do their business and leave, right? Regardless of the gender. There should be gender neutral. Signs, symbols, materials, they should be inclusive of everyone. Education should be happening annually. Celeste says, I work in manufacturing facility. I have not encountered it yet, but how do you recommend handling washrooms when the plant was set up as male and female? Absolutely. So if we already have the building as male and female, then if we have another option is like one bathroom, we can make that one as gender neutral and keep them male and female. But when we have male and female bathrooms, we can accept that transgender folks have the legal right, or they have the human right, to go and access bathrooms that align with their self-identified gender, right? A trans woman who's going to all men bathrooms is going to be harassed verbally, physically, and sexually. They're going to be made fun of. They're going to be hit, right? So we don't want that experience for the people. So a trans woman should use a bathroom that align with her self-identified gender. Same for trans men. Same for people who are non-binary. They can use the bathroom that fits their own bodies. Someone who wants to use a urinal can go and use a urinal, right? Someone who wants to sit, they can use a sit without specifying who's allowed here, who's not. And when we talk about safety, safety is implemented in the space. It's not whether, so if we are allowing people to use bathrooms, that's not gonna compromise safety. If the space is safe and we communicate our code of conduct, anti-discrimination and harassment, equity, diversity, and inclusion statements in our policies, then we create safety. A sign on a door is not going to stop someone from violating people. So a predator who wants to go into a bathroom, the sign or what's on the door is not going to stop them. They're going to go and do whatever they want to do because they already made the decision to violate other humans. So we need to be communicating that from an educational perspective so people understand and build that comfort, because we need to understand the impact on transgender folks when they use bathrooms. Exactly. Put the focus on safety for everyone. And chosen names and pronouns. In the organization, we should be allowing people to use their chosen names, their affirmed names and pronouns without going to legal procedure or without dictating whether they can or cannot do that. That's pretty much my session. Now I will open it for all your questions and please drop them in the chat. And before you go, if you don't have questions, I want to share in the chat the survey for this workshop. Please, please, please complete the survey to be able for me to report on this session. Please, it takes 1 minute. I would really emphasize on using the survey to complete this session, please. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I can hang out here for a bit. And if not, I'm going to drop my email also in the chat. You can email me. If you have any questions, I just dropped my email. Thank you so much. Love the thank yous. The email, you can copy it, is going to go because this chat is just running. And if you have any questions, you can always email the organizer of this workshop and get my email from them. My email is mjumas@centerforsexuality.ca. And please complete the survey. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And I just want to thank you, Matteo, for joining us and providing the insights, and to our audience for your active participation. I really appreciate everyone's time today. And just remember that we all have the ability to be great allies and to take little pieces of learning and make our workplaces more inclusive and make our coworkers and ourselves feel more comfortable. So thank you for joining today.
Thanks a lot. And again, don't hesitate to send me an email or to go on the website, centerforsexuality.ca. And please complete the survey. If the survey didn't work, maybe change Center for Sexuality to C4S. So if you change it to C4S, that would allow you also to access this survey. I dropped it in the chat here, another link. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening, day, morning. I don't know what your time zone is, but hopefully looking forward in the future to work with you, and maybe next time see faces as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you so much, Abdul Tamimi. I'm just going to stay for 3 more minutes for other people. If they have questions, you can send me private message if you don't want to share it in the chat. And I can talk to you. If you have any questions, you can send me an email. I will also have the conversation with you, whatever you're comfortable with. Oh, you cannot see the link? Okay, just give me 1 second, please. I'm sorry for this. It's in the chat, but I'll...
Oh, Matteo, I think it's on, you may be sending it just to host and panelists versus everyone. You see the drop down on the 2 line of the chat.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Just 1 second. I'll drop the link again. I'm sorry for this. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me quickly...
Oh, Jacqueline went ahead and sent it for you.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. And my email as well. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Perfect. Yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. So this is the survey again for everyone. Please fill it up, and yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask me now, or you can send me an email. Or if you are on LinkedIn, you can find me on the same name that on my screen, Matteo Yomas, or with a J, Jumas, and you can message me there if you want, whatever you're comfortable with. Oh, maybe try this one, Nakia. C4S. So because maybe sometimes the word sexuality could be banned in your organization or country. So we have another link that is C4S. So hopefully that works. Okay, sure. Yeah, try the link again. Just keep it in your browser, and hopefully that works. I would appreciate your feedback. Yeah, it's a great day today to be an ally and support other people who might not have that support in their societies or work. Yeah, Chanel, I'm sorry, it's your organization. So try the C4S, that should allow it to work. And if not, a feedback in an email would be great as well. Thank you. Crader, yeah. Thank you so much. And if I'm mispronouncing your name, please excuse me.
All right, it looks like most of our participants have dropped off the line, Matteo, so I appreciate you sticking around to answer questions. And thank you again for the session, and thank you to all of our audience members today.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.